Rhythm games are games where you never want to stop bopping to the beat. Anytime you're not bashing baddies to blood-pumping ballads is bad news for your pacing, especially in a game as addicting as Hi-Fi Rush. But Hi-Fi Rush proves why it deserved to have a narrative when the game arguably would have been better without one. Hi-Fi Rush makes the correct choice of voice actors for a Japanese game, and gets voice actors known for dubbing anime, especially big names like Robbie Daymond and Erika Lindbeck. Lindbeck in particular feels absolutely in her element here, but I suppose once you've played so many characters, all you need to do is slip into their archetype and you've got a phenomenal performance. Her character this time around is an irreverent, rebellious techno-whiz, so take Futaba and sprinkle some Luna on top of it, and you have another standout portrayal. Even if she's becoming the stereotypical female voice in everything now, Erika Lindbeck is well on her way to becoming the next Laura Bailey. And the protagonist role is Robbie Daymond as Chai. And if Eidos Montreal is planning on making a Guardians of the Galaxy prequel anytime soon, I think they found their lead. I mean, Chai is quite literally Star-Lord in every sense of the character. A cheesy white kid in a futuristic world with an odd love for the tunes of the 80s, who forms a group of misfits to fight back against authoritarian powers. Chai is a character that, on paper, I should hate, and in practice I should loathe with his dumb white boy persona and the way he makes puns more often than Microsoft acquires studios. But against all odds, I can't bring myself to hate him, because he's somehow likable. Don't get me wrong, the day he makes me laugh is the day Game Pass gets put on PlayStation, but he's never an asshole, just a goofball. I think it's worth comparing Hi-Fi Rush to Forspoken for a second here, and examining why one game's dialogue bothers me and another's doesn't. And it has nothing to do with the characters saying the lines. It's because of the tone of the media presenting the dialogue. For example, Forspoken is a fantasy action-adventure game. It sounds pretty generic, and you'd be right to think so. So in an effort to add personality to the game, Forspoken has quips. But it doesn't make sense for them to be there, especially when the characters are in a world where only Faye understands Cuff's jokes, and everything else falls on tone-deaf ears. While Hi-Fi Rush presents its tone as carefree and enthusiastic, as well as having characters that are more whimsical, it makes the irreverent tone land better because of what our eyes are seeing. There's no tonal disconnect like there is in Forspoken. Hi-Fi Rush's jokes aren't funny, but they're fitting for this world. The problem with Hi-Fi Rush's tone and dialogue is that it's too earnest. Even when Chai is chastised for a joke that falls flat, it's also done in an irreverent tone, where even the response to the joke has to be a joke. And with the sheer volume of comedy Hi-Fi Rush flings at the player, it becomes impossible to take any of the characters seriously. This especially hurts the game's third act, in which the comedy is toned down in order for the plot to deliver a message of friendship, which falls flat because all these characters have only interacted by being silly with each other. It might sound like I'm complaining about these jokes, which I kind of am, but not because they're painful or anything. As I said, it fits with the tone Hi-Fi Rush has loudly presented itself with, but it robs the characters of any serious interpretations I could make, because even the tsundere characters are making jokes, just not straight up puns. Getting into the narrative and themes of Hi-Fi Rush, the game tells a story of capitalist rebellion against a tech giant, which feels weird coming from a subsidiary of Microsoft. The message of corporatism as evil is presented in maybe the most over-the-top way possible, which kind of dulls the message. The game lacks any form of relatability to its theme. As the game chooses to use robots as employees, you lose a semblance of realism, as Tango Gameworks is able to go over the top with the despair of the mechanical employees. And the over-the-top bosses even further fictionalize the game's message. I mean, say what you will about Elon Musk, but he's not Zanzo. Yet, anyway. Now, I'm not saying the game should have focused on these dark, real-world problems in a meaningful way, as I love the tone of the game too much to give that up for what probably wouldn't be a good message coming from Microsoft. but the choice to have such a free-spirited tone and a message with profound real-world implications doesn't mesh well together. It's also incredibly dissonant from the gameplay, which is about perfectly staying on time with the beat like a machine. There's very little room for freeform unless you want to fail, so the theme of rebellion is conflicted with the gameplay. Hi-Fi Rush might have been a better game if there was no story whatsoever, but I think it proved its worth. The game never ripped control away from me for too long, and it did the unthinkable and made a cast of characters that, against all odds, were likeable in a game with 70% comedy writing. As far as having a narrative for the sake of having one goes, Hi-Fi Rush is a win.